Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyday people can share their own unique spiritual journey stories with a safe and supportive community. If you have a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on that there like and share and subscribe buttons down below. And we have an absolutely amazing story for you today. And our guest is just fantastic, and you're gonna want to buy her book because it's so awesome. So I'm going to hand it over. So welcome to the show.
Why, thank you, Dana. I'm glad to be here. I go by MK McDaniel when I'm writing, but my friends call me Kathy, so we'll go ahead and use that. I'm here because you asked me to share my near-death experience, which is kind of rare. Mine was a distressing NDE. Those only happen about 18 to 20% of the time, and they're rarely talked about because unlike most NDEers that see angels and rainbows and have wonderful experiences, the distressing ones are decidedly different, and mine was no exception. In my case, I had been caring for my very best friend who was fighting leukemia, and the regular doctors had pretty much given up giving him any hope. He was only 53. He had been in good health up until this point. And so a research hospital said they'd take him if he could get two caregivers to help him. And it would be 3 or 4 months of them trying to try new drugs and stuff on him. So he asked me if I'd go to Seattle and be a caregiver. And I said, of course. So I left California and came up to Seattle and found an apartment near the hospital for him and the other caregiver. Well, it was decidedly more than I had bargained for, in that we were up and down all the time, taking him to and from the hospital at all hours. He'd get better, he'd get worse. And after 8 or 9 months of this, he died. And it was a terrible blow to me. He was uh, so close to me, and then I was completely run down. So when I got back to my home and I'd gone to a concert I didn't want to go to with a friend, I picked up a flu that was going around that was very much like COVID. And this was 25 years ago, and there was nothing that they knew to do about this sort of thing. So when I got extremely sick and got to one of those dock in the boxes, passed out, they took me by ambulance to the hospital with no pulse, and threw me in a intensive care unit. The doctor said, we're going to do our best. You've got about a 38% chance of making it. Called in my family from all over and said, we're going to have to put you in this drug-induced coma, and then we're going to try everything, because what you've got is also called ARDS, and that's acute respiratory distress syndrome. That's lung failure. Your lungs are filling up with fluid. We don't know how to get it out or just how to stop it. You're going to die if we can't figure this out. So I said, what could you say? I said, okay, fine. Family said, fine. And he says, okay, one last thing before I put you out. Now you're going to go into a very deep coma, and we're going to virtually take your brain offline. So you're not going to be able to remember anything that happens to you. And hopefully, we'll wake you up and you'll be cured. If not, well, that's the way it goes. So I had no choice. So I said goodbye to everybody, and black went out. And then I woke up. I don't know when. I was 20, almost 20, I think 18, 19 days in the coma. And I don't know when it happened. I know at one point when I got back, my folks said the doctors had come in and said, she's not going to make it. You better say your goodbye. So it was probably in that time frame. But I did slip over to the other side, and I didn't know it. I was just in this void place that's a very common place for people to go after they leave their body. Feels like kind of like a waiting room or something to me, but it's just quiet, dark, fine. You just hang out. But it's really unnerving because you don't know how you got there and where you're going to go from there. But in my case, it started to kind of morph into this reddish glow, which I thought was the sun coming up, and then the swirling fog. And then I heard people screaming and moaning, and it got hot and it smelled bad. And I thought, this can't be good. What in the heck's going on? And then out of this fog boomed this horrible voice that said, "Do you know where you are?" And being a good Catholic girl, the only thing I could come up with was hell. And the thing just boomed this maniacal laugh and scared the what out of me. So I turned in this darkness and just ran. I got a distance away to where I couldn't hear it any longer. And then I stopped again in complete darkness, terrified. I didn't know what was going on. And then it became a series of segments. The segment would begin with bright lights coming up out of nowhere and finding myself in some chaotic or strange or frightening place with all kinds of different things going on. The first was this bombed out city. It looked like it had been, attacked by either aliens or they dropped a bomb or something. People were screaming and running around and fires. And again, complete shock. How in the heck did I get here? And what can I do? I felt alive. You don't feel dead because your spirit is you and our
Right.
body is like a car. So we get in our car, our bodies, and we, around Earth and don't think much about it. But once your
Right.
spirit is out, you're still you. And so there's no sense really of transitioning anywhere. So I was trying to stay alive in these very crazy positions that I found myself in. So they would go from one to the next. Something would culminate and then it would go black. I'd stand there again in the darkness thinking, what's going to, boom, here comes the lights in another situation. Most of them, some of them involved demons, and there's no other word for it. They were just big, ugly things they could speak, but they were just ugly and frightening and mean. And they would say, you've got a job, you've got to work in this terrible abortion clinic. It was a terrible situation. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I was there about 5 minutes. And I said, no, I can't do this. And he says, well, if you want to get out, jobs. And I said, well, I'll find another way. Well, they said, it only gets worse. So I was bumped from one place to another. Uh, and he was right. They got worse. And there were times, there was almost a respite when I would find myself on this long road that just went off into the distance. And
Yeah.
again, there's no stars or moon or anything. There's just this dusk, and there's like a reddish glow at the horizon. It looks like maybe a fire's coming up over at the edge. But I would
Mm.
be on this road and be trudging and walking and again feeling thirsty and tired and scared and mad and thinking, well, when am I going to get out of here? I just don't understand it. I'll just have to keep going. I can't give up. I'm not a quitter. I'm not a victim. I will find a way. So there is no time over there. It's only this eternal now. uh Time is really just a construct of our earth and anything in it. So I have no idea how, quote, long I was there, but it felt like years. And these situations kept coming up. Finally, to get to the end, I didn't know it was going to be the end. It was a terrible situation with this mob of crazed individual men that physically assaulted me and left me for in the dirt. And this demon lady told me to get up, that I was going with her and these other women who had suffered what I had. And we trudged out into an area that was vast and full of snow and cold and windy and awful. And we were barely dressed, and we trudged along for a very long time. Finally found this hideous cabin in the middle of nowhere, and um, windows were broken, and it was no insulation. It was freezing inside like it was freezing outside. She sat us on the floor and said, okay, now we wait for customers. And we knew that was going to be a pretty bad situation. And I said to her, I've been here a long time. Is there something I don't know? This is either the darkest time I've seen. And she says, oh, well, geez, it's always bad down here when it's Christmas on Earth. That's the worst day in hell. And that's when it dawned on me. I said, hell. And she says, well, yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, how did this happen? And am I going to get out? And I thought, I was mad. I thought, no, I don't belong here. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to make her mad. So I started singing a Christmas carol. And the other lady started singing in, and she was furious and yelling at us and threatening us. And then all of a sudden, when it came to the point in away in a manger, no crib for his bed, the little Lord, and I could not get the next word out. She shrieked and jumped at me, and I covered my eyes, and I thought, well, I'll just be going to another place. So the lights went out. But then the lights came up, and boom, I was all of a sudden enveloped in this. It's ineffable. It's so hard to describe it. It's
Right.
just intense light and love and bliss and joy, and just your spirit is just tumbling, and every molecule of you is just filled to bursting with this
Mm.
love and joy, and you never want to leave. You just want to just stay there. And it's kind of tumbled me around for a while, and then it felt like it was kind of coalescing a little bit, and I could see almost like walls. We weren't real walls, but I don't know, it's hard to describe. It was just like being in a huge cathedral, and again, full of this joy and wonder, and thinking, wow, what is this? I'm so happy. And I look over, and there's my friend, the one that had died the month before. And
Oh.
he looked great. And I thought, oh my gosh, I just saw him and he looked awful. You die of leukemia, your hair falls out, you're blotchy, you're swollen. And I thought, wow, he doesn't know he's dead. Because he was laughing, and then he was really laughing. And I thought, now, I didn't say that out loud. How did he hear me? And oh my, maybe I'm dead. I'm dead too. We're in heaven, and this is great. I was so excited to see him and to be with him. And I says, why are we just standing here? And I said, come on, show me around. And he came a little closer, and he says, now, Mary Kay, which is what he called me, you've got too much left to do. And I thought, what? You mean they're kicking me out? I said, no, no, you have no idea no, I'm not going. And the lights went out. The lights came up, and now it's too bright. There's people milling around. I can't move. It's too hot. And I think, oh no, I'm back in that hellish
Back.
place again. And then one of the people turns around and says, Mom's back. And I thought, what? And they all come toward me, and I'm looking, and they said, oh my God, they're talking at once. You've been in a coma. They said you weren't going to make it. We're so happy you're back. My mom says, oh my God, Kathy, we had a prayer circle in the world, and we brought you back. And I thought, oh, you terrible woman, you have no idea what you pulled me out of. I couldn't talk. Thank God I had the trach thing, and I thought, I don't want to be here. I want to be back there. And so now anyway, so my reaction was, if I've got too much left to do, how am I going to do it if I can't move? I can't breathe. I can't do anything. And it was a very
Mhm.
depressing time for me, I'll tell you. My family was thrilled I was back, but I still had another week in ICU, and then 4 weeks in a physical rehab facility to try and teach me how to walk and crawl and go up and down stairs and feed myself, all the things that I'd forgotten how to do, like a baby.
Oh,
Very,
boy.
very bad when you're 53 years old to feel that dependent. And um, so I had a long way back. It took me a good year before I could feel physically able to be anywhere near normal. I was haunted by this whole experience. I didn't understand why it had happened to me. I'd been, like I say, a good Catholic girl my whole life. I, did everything I was supposed to. I did all the masses and novenas and everything. I was tried to be a good person. I could not imagine why that had happened. So I had no one to talk to. My family didn't want to hear about it. nobody wants to hear about you being in hell, because they think, well, geez, if she can go to hell, what's going to happen to me? That
Right.
kind of. So it took 10 years before I found IANDS. That's the International Association of Near-Death Studies up in Seattle. They were formed there over 40 years ago in Seattle, which I was an hour away from in the whole United States. So synchronicities start happening, things that led me to them. It was time. It was time for me to pull myself together and find out why this happened, the purpose, what I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. And I did not go gracefully. I went kicking and screaming as usual. And after a couple of meetings up in Seattle, where the people that they always had a speaker would share their glorious, lovely times with the angels and Jesus for lunch, and going through all the universities and flower gardens and things. And I'm thinking, what happened to me? Why aren't any of these people talking about this? So as I was sneaking out of a meeting, one of the people that was in charge says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Nah, this is not what happened to me." And he says, "Really? What happened to you?" And I says, "Well, I was in hell and I had devils and it was awful." And he says, "Great." And I said, "What?" And he says, "Oh, geez, only 18-20% of the people have these and they don't like to talk about it." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, we need to know about this. We need to understand this. And there's people
Yeah.
out there we can't help." So they badgered me into getting up and telling my story, which I did not want to do. But once I got going, and all those people either had NDEs or were very familiar with them, they were very open and understanding, and they were hanging on every word. So at the end, everybody just clapped. They were so glad that I found a way out, that I was back. And
Yes.
then I began to be the hell girl. So if they had a meeting and they wandered in and says, "I had this kind of, oh, send her to Kathy. Kathy will take care of her." So I got this little group going. And then when going to the annual conventions where there's 400 or 500 of us, boy, is that fun. It's really fun.
Oh, I bet.
And they would have all these speakers for the glorious NDEs, and maybe one lady was Nancy Evans Bush. She was a person that had a distressing one and had written 3 books. And there were a few other people that had written books. And I followed her after her speech at the conference, and I said, how did you how did you get your life back? And I told her part of my story. She says, "You need to write a book. You really do, because there's not enough of us that are trying to help these people and to help everybody understand. The understanding is God is all loving and all forgiving and would never condemn anybody." So what happened?
Right.
85% of the people I talk to are recovering Catholics that had these experiences. It has to do, I believe, with what we believe. If you're taught your whole life, like we are, that we're going to go to purgatory when we die, purgatory being just like hell, but you get out after you pay for your sins, you can make your own hell.
Yes.
We've got free will. We can go anywhere we want. We can do anything we want. So if I believe that I would go to purgatory, which I did once I died, and so I made my own. And I think my
Wow.
purpose is to come back and tell people, skip the trip, because God doesn't do that to us. Your religion is
Yeah.
wrong. I
Yeah.
don't care what religion. If a religion says to you, if you don't do what we say, you're going to hell, run, because that's not
Yeah.
true. And you're
No.
setting yourself up for a very unpleasant experience. So as far
No.
as judgment, no judgment. When you die, you get a life review. And I wasn't there long enough to get mine, but people enjoy them. I mean, you get to see everything that happened in your whole life. And then you see how you do. Because the other thing I've learned is that we all start off in heaven. We're just all pieces of God. Everything is God,
Right.
and God is love. So we
Right.
choose to come down to earth, which is, I'm told, the toughest gig. There's plenty of other places we can go, and I don't intend on coming back here. So but this is a tough, this is for the brave souls. coming here,
Yeah.
pat yourself on the back because you're a brave
Yeah.
soul if you chose to come to
Hmm.
this place. But you've got all these things you want to learn, and you learn by contrast. So I figure out after all these years, I wanted to learn this, and this. And one of them was, yeah, I'll volunteer to go have one of these DNDEs. Little did I know how much fun that would be. And then come back and explain to people, please, just don't be afraid. It's the other side. Heaven is so wonderful. Everybody you know is going to be there. All your pets. It's just great. There's nothing to be afraid of. And the life review is interesting. Now there are people that say, well, wait a minute. You're telling me I can do anything. I can get away with anything on, yeah, what about people like Hitler? All right. When you get that life review, you see it going one direction, and then you
Hmm.
get to feel how it was to interact with other people. If you were kind of snarky to somebody and it hurt their feelings, you're going to go, ouch. Ooh, I hurt her feelings when I said that. Ouch, that didn't feel
Yeah.
good. But it's not a punishment. It's just like a karma thing. Out now you get to feel what it is you did. So somebody like Hitler, if he gets to feel all the pain and agony and uh, you
Yeah.
know, for all those millions of people and their families, he's probably halfway through his life review by now. And that's what else can you do to the guy? I mean, he's
Yeah.
going to get it all back. So
Yeah.
that
He'll feel each and every one of them, and the pain and the hunger and the torture. And he'll feel everything.
yeah, that's just the
Yeah.
way. Yeah. So you want to, when I came back, it was, I still was fearful. And so I was praying very hard, the thou shalt nots didn't work for me. Okay. I need something positive for myself and to tell other people. And it came to me over a series of weeks in twos. And I was told, Kathy, be loving and kind, merciful and forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful. That's it. Just spread that. Tell people that. That's all they got to do. They can't remember all of it. Loving and kind. Every morning I get up. Help me to be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, and then live it. And then forget all the thou shalt nots. You won't be doing them if you're doing all these loving. So that's what I'd like to share.
That's just an amazing story. I can't even imagine something like that to go through. I mean, it's got to be terrifying to be in hell like that. I just,
Yeah, but you make
I
it yourself,
just, yeah,
and
you do.
you don't have to go through it. That's what I'm trying to tell people. You really don't. Um, I don't know what else would
Yeah.
you like to know?
Yeah. I would be kind of curious about the people that you were with, all the females and everything you were with when you were in hell, because you're there, you're singing these Christmas songs. What would they be thinking?
Well, you know what
Are
it is?
they?
They were, I won't say figments of my imagination, but when I got back and over the many years, it's been 25. It's all still fresh in my memory because it was in my soul, not in my brain. But I've been able to determine when people started saying, hey, I had segments too. And I had these segments and they start talking about it. And I said, did that have anything to do with your real life? Well, yeah, it did because of this was happening. And then I talked to other people and I thought, okay, I can now trace back every single segment that I experienced in hell as something that actually happened to me, but I made it worse. That first scene is the 1989 earthquake that I was in Santa Cruz. I was downtown when that hit. It was a 7 point. It was a biggie, destroyed the town, fell down. I was under my desk. Everything was shaking. It was
Mm,
people
yeah.
screaming and running, fires and the whole bit. And when I came out, it looked like the house, well, it had been destroyed, the town had. So that was
Right.
my first piece of hell. I brought that with me. And then the rape scene, I had been raped in real life. All these other things, I can tie them all back. So I made
Wow.
my own. And that's what happens to other people too. So again, that's why I say we've got free will. We can go anywhere we want and do anything we want to do. God doesn't interfere. If you want to have that experience, that's cool. But you don't have to. And that's another thing. When I got back, I thought, okay, when something happens to me now, I don't say, God, why do you keep doing this stuff to me? You know, it's God's will. You should go through this trial. And bullshit. Excuse my French, but God doesn't cause anything to happen to you. You choose it, and you choose it for a reason. So if something happens and I go, oh, this is a mess, I wonder what it was. I'm trying to learn from this. And then you look at it from a whole different angle. You're not a victim. You're trying to learn a lesson, and it's a very a good way to learn a lesson. And but the thing I find that I'm learning by these things is empathy. When something bad happens to you, you become very empathetic when somebody says, this happened to me too, you know, because you
Mhm.
now can say, honestly, I know how you feel. And I had my first baby
Right.
died when she was only 2 days old, and she had this horrible
Mhm.
surgery. They were trying to save her, and it was awful. It was a miserable time when I was really mad at God, but I know now that
Mm.
was not God's doing, that my baby probably just said, look, I'll go to earth with you so you can learn this lesson, but I'll be there for 9 months and 2 days and I'm out of there. And I said, okay, fine. So I had this to deal with. So, but I became very empathetic then for my friends. Two more of them had babies die, and they
Yeah.
felt such comfort coming to me because they could say, you really know how I feel. Am I ever going to get over this pain? And I could truthfully say no, but you're going to
No.
learn to live with it, or you'll
Mhm.
learn to be kinder to people that have this happen rather than be that type of person that says, get on with your life, you'll have another child.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you could say to somebody. So no
Yeah.
matter what
I
it is,
know.
do you?
Yeah,
So,
I miscarried after about 6 weeks.
oh, I'm sorry.
And yeah, but I actually got in contact with her.
Ah,
And
cool.
yeah, I
I've done that
I
too. That's so cool.
yeah, so I got in contact with her. So now I
Uh-huh.
know um I had a girl,
Hmm.
and she even told me what her name was, because just
Oh,
about maybe 10 years ago,
uh-huh.
my son was like, Mom, we have to name the baby. It can't be just
Yes.
baby. So I'm like, why didn't I ever think of that? And he goes, okay, we'll just give it a neutral name because we didn't know at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I got to talk, and or was using my pendulum, and I found out that she didn't like the name we picked out for her. So she gave us her name. So now I know her name is Monica. And when I
Oh,
saw her, I got to see a quick glance of her. And she
uh-huh.
had long brown hair
Uh-huh.
and very skinny. She was probably in her teens when
Uh-huh.
I saw her. So it was beautiful. It
It
was
is.
beautiful. She even
And
told
know
me,
you'll see her again, you know? I mean, she's
yeah,
not gone.
yeah,
Any of our relatives that are friends that die, and you say, oh gosh, I'll never see him. Yeah. And
right.
they're right
Yeah,
there with you. They're
yeah.
right there all the time. Anytime you
Yeah,
think of them, they're right there.
they're right
And
here.
that's such a comfort.
Yeah. And she even told me why she left. So
Okay.
I even know now why she went back and didn't complete the pregnancy. And
Hmm.
it was like, well, thank you. I mean, it was all, she was only thinking of me and my husband. She was
Wow.
only thinking of us. She wasn't caring about her. It was
Uh-huh.
just so amazing.
Healing.
So
It's healing.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
what kind of
And
love
then
is better than that? You know?
yeah, I know. And
I
you'll see her
mean,
again. She'll be when you're on your
yes.
deathbed, she'll be right there to pull you up, man. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, most of us go down and work at hospice for a while when we get back. I did. I was there for about 2 years because I was so jealous. Those people were going home and I wasn't. And I would be there, and that, anybody that was scared, I'd go in there and say, oh, let me tell you what you're in for, man. I am so jealous of you. This one guy's eyes got all big and he thought, what? I said, oh no, I swear it is so I was going on and on. He says, oh, wait, I'm going to get ready. Just be quiet for a little while. And he got his big grin on his face. He's waiting. He's so excited. So
Yeah,
yeah, it changes everything having this kind of experience. And it makes some sense of your life, particularly when you figure I planned this, it
yeah,
makes it great. And when you've got all, oh gosh, we got so many soulmates that we come down with. And those are people that, you just kind of click with. And like you and I tell my podcast host this because we obviously knew each other. And we said, okay, this incarnation, oh golly, I'm going to live and you're going to live over there. But let's get together for an hour. Okay. And just
yeah,
check in and touch bases and encourage each other. And then when we get home, we'll see each other and say, wasn't that fun? You know?
yeah, yeah. And I think this is a good spot to give it a closing. So it was great having you on the show, and it was great to see you again.
You betcha. I'll see you again.
I will see you again.
Okay, Dana, thank
And
you.
oh,
Have a good
thank you very much. And if
okay.
anybody out there has a story that you would like to share, again, please email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And don't forget to click on that like, share, and subscribe buttons. And we will see you all next time. Bye.